Saniel, I have a question.
Yeah, let's turn around and Jack, a second to make sure we're on Zach here. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so yesterday, Toby and I were driving back here, and it was dark, and had been, since the Welcome to Your Second Life course, I've been dropping into the core wound further and further and further, and things have been pointing back to it over and over again, and then reading your book again, just, I can't stop reading it, and so just, and so Toby and I were talking about this, and she was asking me what I want, basically, like, what do I really want fundamentally down at the base, and it seems to me there feels like there is a progression for me after the second birth and into the future, where what it feels like this process wants, with the gravity and momentum of being in waking down, and what I most want down deep is to rest in the core wound further and further and further and further, deeper, to live it more, to know how much it encompasses everything completely, and to live from that place. But there's another part of me, maybe it feels more mental or something, that still wants to make a problem out of it, or get away from it, or cover it up. So I'm wondering if there's a progression where that, I don't know, maybe it's a habit or something of wanting to project something that can fix or cover it up, burns away or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, thank you. It's a very astute recognition, and what does happen is exactly the kind of gradual shift you're talking about. And that's why the senior teachers, more and more, have confidently turned around and been able to say to all the other practitioners, it's going to take you something like 4, 5, 7 years to undergo a much fuller transition, to complete the transition into just being the wound. Which, you see, again, part of, to respond a little bit more to Toby's question, part of what also came through some years ago was one of the teachers at the time, C.L. Miller, asked, do you think we could use different language and maybe call it core paradox or core mystery? And other people have language. Ted has sometimes used the phrase core tension. And Van has got a core something phrase that I'm forgetting at the moment. You know, all of these are viable enough, and at the time I said, yeah, let's talk mystery, because I'd actually started equating the wound with the mystery in some of my trainings. So I said, okay, let's experiment with using core mystery. Whereas in the past, when people would complain about that word wound, I would always say to them, keep going in your process, and if after you've realized deeply you're still taking issue with the word wound, talk to me again. And nobody ever really felt that necessity. But I appreciated CL's point, and for a number of reasons we went along with that. But after a while I realized, no, but Linda and I both, you can't not refer to the wound. And in the course of further considerations with individuals, actually, what became clear to me is that what you're giving voice to, falling into, and wanting to realize more and more fully is not merely wound as in pain. I mean, in fact, it's the simultaneity. And that's what we recognize. It's simultaneous wound wellness. That's the mystery. And moreover, it's not let me be and abide in and just burn in being the wound and I'll get to the full wellness. It's not on the other side. It's utterly coincident. indistinguishable. And you hear people giving voice to that in very simple language, like the language of the book Great Relief, when they say things like, I'm going through hell, you know, inside and out, things are really tough, or just even inside. Everything is fine in my life, but, you know, at a fundamental level, I'm feeling devastated, and yet it's okay. I mean, it's like totally okay at the same time. I don't know what to make of it. People wind up saying stuff like this again and again and again. So what you're giving voice to, Zach, is the recognition that there is an evolutionary transition that you're now in the early stages of, where you will be burning through more and more of the residual mind force and habit pattern, instinctual impulse to fix this fundamental pain or suffering, and to escape it, you know, or to somehow negotiate a relationship to it that gives you a kind of relief that's not really in the cards. That is a working on it rather than a being with and as and in and being it. And that process is what we look to see people mature in over time after their second birth awakening. And that's part of why more and more we're looking to create a second life or awakened culture where there are a variety of post-awakening trainings and further courses and programs that people can go through, so they don't just sort of drift away and kind of find their own relatively uninformed way of being related to all this. At least relatively uninformed by the best wisdom that we've collectively now been able to bring into a kind of acculturation, an expression. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.